Hello everyone, Cindy here with Monarch Mom DIY. Thank you so much for joining me today on my channel where I love to bring you the best tips and tools for creating beautiful home decor on a budget. Today I am here with 6 easy, high-end looking Christmas home decor DIYs, so let's get crafting. For today's first DIY, we're going to be making this nativity hoop wreath using an embroidery hoop, this $3 nativity set from Dollar General, a fleece baby blanket from Dollar Tree, and some greenery. So the first thing I'm doing is taking my Waverly chalk paint in the black color called ink, and I'm just painting all of the wood surfaces on my embroidery hoop. I have kept the inside hoop inside, and I'm just painting every surface one coat, and then we'll let this dry completely. Now for the Dollar General Nativity, I'm just using this one piece for this project, and I'm going to use my Waverly Antique Wax and a small brush to just darken up the wood grain look on the front side of this project, going around and covering it completely. And then I'm going to remove the excess with a baby wipe to get even more of that wood grain to stand out in this nice dark brown color. Then taking my gray and white buffalo check fleece baby blanket from Dollar Tree, we're going to unfold this and we're going to fit it inside of our hoops. So using the screw to loosen the outside hoop, we'll take the inside hoop out. And then I'm choosing to have the fabric on the back of my hoops. So the first thing I'm going to do is lay my outside hoop underneath the blanket, and then we're going to fit the inside hoop down between so that it pushes the blanket to the back of what will be our project. Try to get the squares lined up so that they're going up and down straight. You can pull the blanket before you completely tighten that outside hoop. Then just taking a pair of scissors, I'm going to rough cut around my hoop to get the excess blanket off. And then I'm taking my Magnolia scissors and I'm just cutting right up to the hoop. So you will see that little white line of the blanket. If you wanted to, you could cover that up with some ribbon, but I actually kind of liked it. It added an extra circle around the outside of our hoop. Then taking my hot glue, I'm putting some pretty generously on the back of the nativity and lining that up and gluing that down to the blanket. Next, taking some of this 1.5-inch wide burlap wired ribbon, I'm going to make 2 loops, and you can see here I'm just kind of measuring. It's at about 7 inches, overlapping the ribbon and putting some glue there, and I'm going to make 2 of these roughly the same size. And go ahead and open those loops up so that they're not glued together top to bottom. Then taking one more piece of the burlap ribbon, we're going to make this to be the tails of our bow. So cut a piece, fold it in half, and then I'm going to dovetail the ends, and then we will tie all 3 pieces of our bow together to create the look that we want for this project. So then just layer the 2 loops on top of the tail piece, and you're going to tie all 3 pieces together with a piece of jute twine, scrunching them together as you tie the knot, making sure it's centered as much as possible, and then finish tying the knot, cut away the excess jute, and then you can fluff and form your ribbon, your bow, how you'd like. As an optional last step, you can cut one more piece of the burlap ribbon, fold it in thirds, and wrap that around the center of your bow if you want to cover up the jute twine and just give your bow a little bit more of a finished look. Wrap it around to the back, glue it down, and then cut away any excess, and then you'll be ready to add your bow to your project. Now that our bow is at the top of our project, we'll take some greenery. I got this at Hobby Lobby, and it's a nice wire down where the bulk of the hardware is for the hoop. We're going to make that the bottom of our wreath. It just gives us a little bit more surface that we can glue our greenery to. So first I'm going to take a couple pieces of this wired, pretty bristly looking Christmas tree branch. I liked it, had a little bit of sparkle to it. It was on sale for $3 for the entire branch, and I just cut pieces off. It is a very thick wire though, so you will definitely need some wire cutters like the ones you see there that are in my Amazon storefront as one of my favorite DIY crafting tools. So I just did one branch on each side, and then I have this little slightly frosted little, I don't know if it's boxwood greenery or what it is. It's been in my stash. Just cut some little pieces, and then when I see where I want to tuck it in, just put a little hot glue on the end and press it in, hold it there until it stays. Some of the plastic greenery, be careful though, your hot glue gun might like start to melt it, so just be aware of that. Then I took some little red and white berry branch pieces here and tucked those in as well. You can definitely just use what you have on hand or what you can find at your local stores. However much or however little of the florals you want, and then you'll have your completed project. And I love how this turned out with the very neutral color scheme, except for the little pop of red and white at the bottom. When you use the hardware section of the hoop as your base, you can possibly stand this up as well as hang it. If you're stopping by my channel for the first time today, welcome. I'm so glad that you found me. I sure hope you'll consider sticking around by hitting that subscribe button. And be sure to click the bell and set your notifications so YouTube will let you know each time I upload new content or go live on my channel. If you are a returning viewer or subscriber, thank you so much for coming back each and every week and all your comments that give me such encouragement each week. For DIY number 2, we're going to take a wood star from Hobby Lobby and one of the adhesive wall tiles from Dollar Tree and turn this repurposed cutting board into a beautiful merry and bright sign. So I'm always looking for cutting boards when I go to thrift stores, and this one was nice. It was a little dirty, so once I cleaned it up and sanded it down just a little bit, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in lacquer, and I'm going to just give it one good coat on the top, the bottom, and all the side edges. We'll let that dry thoroughly, and then we'll sand it just a little bit to give it a little bit of that distressed character. Now taking one of these self-adhesive wall tiles from Dollar Tree, I'm going to paint my entire wall tile with Waverly's plaster. I just didn't want a bright white for this. I decided to make it a little more muted, as we are also going to distress it with some brown truffle. So I went over the entire thing one time, let it dry. I did spray a clear matte coat over it so that the plaster paint would not chip off. Now that the one side of our cutting board is dry, you can see we're coming back to do the edges and the other side of the cutting board as well. Next, I'm taking one of these stars from Hobby Lobby. You get 4 in a package, and turning my adhesive tile over to the back. We're going to just lay the star down, trace it with a Sharpie, and then we will just cut through all of the layers with our pair of scissors from Magnolia to get our wall tile in the star shape. Then to adhere our wall tile to our wood star, I'm going to use some matte finish Mod Podge, put a pretty generous layer of this glue onto our wood star, and then we'll press the wall tile down on it. I will say that once this was dry, I did go back and glue down each of the 5 points of the star with some hot glue just to make sure they didn't peel off. So here's what I mentioned before. On the cutting board, I did kind of sand the edges and all over the front just to have a little bit of the wood grain show through and give our cutting board a little more of a distressed look. Now this step is definitely optional, and you can go back and forth between your dark truffle and your lighter white or plaster color. Here I'm just using a foam dome brush lightly with the truffle brown chalk paint to bring out the designs in the tile. Then you can see I go back a little harder and just kind of smudge that out. It's definitely whatever your taste is. If you find that you've put too much of the dark color on, you can wipe it with a damp paper towel. You can go back over it with the lighter color, either white or plaster. But the purpose here is to give this a little bit of a patina, make it look like an actual old wall tile that's being repurposed. Once I had my star how I wanted, I did spray it with the clear matte spray. Then turning it over, I'm applying hot glue to the back of the wood star and then placing that down on our red cutting board, which I also did spray with clear matte spray once I had sanded the lacquer. I'm going to use this stencil from Magnolia. It's called Merry and Bright. And another way you can use stencils is you can use the words, but not necessarily the way they're formatted on the stencil. So here the words are stacked. I'm actually going to use them to go across the bottom of the cutting board here, so it'll say Merry and Bright in one straight line. Applying our stencil down with the word Merry, I'm just going to use some of my Brilliant White chalk paste, drag a little bit of that across the mesh stencil just for that one word, and then we will peel the stencil to reveal the stenciled word. We'll move over to the other side of the cutting board, and now we'll lay down the word bright. And then once those are completely dry, we'll come back and do the word and in the middle. And once our stenciled words had dried completely, I did give another spray of the clear matte. I took my drill and I made a couple holes in the top corners of the cutting board. I used a thicker jute twine, doubled over, made a couple knots, one knot here at the front, and then I'm going to cut the length of my twine and then feed it back through the other hole so that we just have those 2 knots at the front. And then we're going to use some Christmas greenery to decorate the very top of our project right there at the top of the star. So using a couple pieces of one of these evergreen garland ties, I got mine at Walmart. They do have them at Dollar Tree as well. Then just some other little pieces of some Christmas foliage here, and then we will add a couple little other florals or greenery, and possibly even a pine cone right in the middle. I love how this turned out and how cheerful it is with the bright red color and the stenciled words, and just a wood star from Hobby Lobby and the wall tile from Dollar Tree. For a list of all of the supplies I'm using in today's projects, click the arrow next to the video title. That will open up the description box and you can see the list of supplies there, as well as some links to my Amazon storefront and my Magnolia website. For DIY number 3, we're going to use this wood tray that has the 4 sections from Dollar Tree and make a little Christmas shadow box, also using some other mini items from Dollar Tree and Walmart. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to give my tray a coat of black Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. We'll basically paint every surface of the tray except for the bottom of each of the 4 sections. So on all the sides, the back of the tray, and then up the sides of each of the 4 sections on the tray. Once that was completely dry, I did spray it with a clear matte spray. Now coming to the front of the tray, just going around the edges, and like I said, going down into each of the sides, but you don't have to worry about covering the entire bottom of each section because we're going to use 4 different scrapbook papers from Hobby Lobby to cover this bottom of each of our sections. So here are my 4 papers I chose. I measured, and the square sections are about 3¼ inches by 3¼ inches. So I chose to go with more traditional Christmas colors for this project. So you'll just decide on the paper, cut your 4 squares, and then once we have those all cut, we will attach those with some Mod Podge. So like I said, now that we have our paper cut, put a little bit of Mod Podge in the bottom of each compartment, and then I did come up the sides to give a uniform finish to our shadow box. Once you have the Mod Podge spread evenly in each of your 4 sections there you can see how I meant going up the sides of each section. Then we'll spritz a little water on the back of your scrapbook paper square and apply that down, pressing it down into the Mod Podge to avoid getting any air bubbles. I decided to make a beaded hanger for my shadow box, so I did drill a couple little holes into the top section here. So I'm going to feed the jute twine through. I have my little knot there, and then just trim it really close to the knot so it doesn't get in the way of whatever I put in those top two sections. Another good tip is to use some Scotch tape on the end of your jute twine as you're going to put some beads on. These beads were from Amazon. I believe they're in my DIY craft supplies on my Amazon storefront. I'm just doing a variety here in a pattern: red, white and black gingham, green, red and black gingham, and then white. And I just did that a couple of times, I believe. Then we will put our string down through the hole on the left side, tie the knot, and we'll be good to go with our shadow box and the beaded hanger. So going through my craft stash, I chose 4 items just to put in the different sections to have some variety. I have this little mini Christmas tree from Dollar Tree glued there to the bottom. Then this little mini red truck ornament with the truck in the back. I did take a tumbling tower block and glue the short side to the truck, and then we'll put some more glue on it so that the truck can stand out a little bit as well from the background of the shadow box. Then this little ornament with the ribbon is from Walmart. I believe it came on a pack of 6 for under $2. So we're going to just glue that to the back of our shadow box on the top left. And then on the bottom right, I'm using some of my Scrabble tiles to spell out the word hope. And I love how this turned out. Super cute. This would make a really fun craft night with everyone just bringing little things like this that they have and seeing how different everybody's turned out. You could also make them smaller with one single square and make as ornaments. For DIY number 4, we're going to make a Christmas word tree. I'm using this wooden tree from Hobby Lobby, which is normally $8. On sale it was $4. Some scrapbook paper, some Magnolia stencils, and a star. So to start off, I'm just going to give my tree a coat of white Waverly chalk paint on the 4 sections, on the front and on the back. And then we're going to let this dry completely. Then for the trunk and base of our tree, we'll use Truffle Waverly chalk paint, just a nice rich dark brown to go with the Christmas tree. Next, taking this red and white plaid, I'm going to cut 2 strips. These sections of the tree are about 3 1/8 inches tall. So I'm going to cut, first of all, an 11-inch strip going the long ways on my paper. That's about that 3 1/8 inch, so that I can Mod Podge scrapbook paper on the bottom section of my tree and the second section. So we'll cut another piece using the shorter side here of the paper, and then, like I said, we'll just attach those down with some Mod Podge. Now you could definitely leave your tree at this point, just with the white and the plaid paper. But you'll see I'm going to go ahead and add some words to my tree once we get this paper Mod Podged on and the excess cut away from the edges. So next, using our fingertip knife, we're just going to cut away that excess paper. And then I did take the Mod Podge again and go over the scrapbook paper so that it would not peel up off of our tree. These words are from a Magnolia stencil called Winter Words. I decided I wanted to do Jesus, then Christmas, then Oh Holy Night. This font is pretty skinny, so I may have used maybe more of a gold next time on the words, or maybe a scrapbook paper that was not quite as bright. But I love how it turned out. Even though the words are skinny and maybe hard to read from far away, I just love how you can take this ho 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 stencil and just use the O there at the end for Oh Holy Night. Now just taking our black chalk paste and dragging it across the mesh of our stencil, we will then have our words stenciled onto our tree. Once the chalk paste words were dry, I did do a spray, one coat of the clear matte spray on our entire front of our tree. Then I'm taking this red star from Magnolia as well and hot gluing it to the top section of our tree. I love how simple this is and just giving these 3 words that have so much meaning for me for Christmas. You definitely could take this idea and modify it with whatever colors and patterns you choose. If you're on Facebook, I sure hope you'll head over to my Monarch Mom DIY Facebook page. I go live there 2 to 3 times a week with different DIY projects than what I'm showing here on YouTube. I hope you will consider liking and following that page. For DIY number 5, we're going to make another nativity using items from the Dollar Tree and 1 piece of scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby. I have this square frame from Dollar Tree. It's one that has no back to it and it has the words imprinted. You can just take a razor blade or a scraper like this one that I got at Walmart, and you can scrape all of those letters off so that you just have the clear frame. Then I'm going to measure the inside, which is 7 inches by 7 inches, and I'm going to cut this Names of Jesus scrapbook paper that I found at Hobby Lobby into a 7-inch square that we will then Mod Podge onto the front of the glass of our frame. I do this so that it has a nice clean look. You'll just have the white on the back and not whatever words were on the frame. So you can just put the Mod Podge right onto your glass, a good layer, and then again I did kind of go up the inside edges of the frame. Then we'll spritz a little bit of water again onto our scrapbook paper on the back of it and smooth it down over that Mod Podge. Next, taking this little 3D DIY kit from Dollar Tree, it's a little nativity. We're just going to use this stable here and then Joseph, baby Jesus, and Mary. I'm not going to use the wise men, or I think maybe there was even a camel in here. So I used antique wax on the stable, and then I'm going to use plaster, I believe, or white, maybe it's white, on Joseph, Mary, and baby Jesus. Then you can see I also have those 3 stars that are also from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to paint the 3 stars with some gold acrylic paint. Now that we have all of our pieces painted and dried, I'm just going to use hot glue. And first I'm going to glue down that stable flush against the bottom and then center it as well as I can. Next we'll glue on baby Jesus, Joseph, and Mary, and then the stars above the stable. For a little bit of added texture, I just took a few strands of raffia and put a bead of hot glue there below the Holy Family, just to kind of be there in the space between them and the bottom of the frame. And I think it added a lot just to add that little bit of texture to our piece. Now I did want to add a beaded hanger for this, but I'm just going to keep it very neutral with black, white, and natural beads. We will knot the 2 ends of our string and hot glue those really well into the back upper corners of our frame. If you enjoy budget home decor DIY videos like this, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, as that lets YouTube know people are enjoying my content and they will show it to more and more viewers. For our last DIY of this video, I'm going to use 2 of these metal star ornaments from Dollar General, 2 of these square frames, and some gutter guard, and we'll make it look like chicken wire. So the first thing I'm doing is I'm using my staple remover, which is an amazing crafting tool, also in my Amazon storefront. Remove all the staples on the back of the canvases, and then using a baby wipe, I'm going to apply some of the Waverly antique wax all the way around. We're just going to darken up these gorgeous wood frames that are inside the wrapped canvases. Of course, save your canvas. You never know when you might need it for an upcoming project. So we're using the antique wax on the front and all the inside edges and all the outside edges of our 2 wood frames from our wrapped canvases, and then be sure to let those dry. Now I cut a couple of pieces of this gutter guard and just running some white chalk paint over it to lighten it up a little bit. We are making this look even more like chicken wire, but it's way easier to work with and way safer than chicken wire. So paint those with a dry brushing of your white, spray clear matte spray on them, and then once they're dry, they'll be ready to attach to the back of your frames. Now you possibly could do this with hot glue. I felt much better about using my staple gun. I felt like it was going to hold a lot better. but you can then reinforce it with hot glue if you'd like. I did cut off the jute twine hanger from each of these ornaments, but I did keep the greenery and the jute bow on. These fit perfectly inside these frames, and once we get them set how we want them, we'll just flip it over to the back to glue them on. First though, I'm going to take this black and white gingham ribbon, just adding another small bow on top of the jute bow to give a little bit more of a farmhouse touch to these two metal square signs. Once we get our bows tied, we'll just hot glue those right on top of the jute bow. Then we'll flip over our signs, and you can see I'm just putting a little bit of hot glue at the point of each tip of our star and gluing down the star to the gutter guard, or what looks like chicken wire, on the back of our star. Then we'll just let that sit so that that all sticks fairly well, and we'll do this on both of our star signs. I love how these turn out. These are so great for neutral decor right now. Of course, you could always paint that wood frame red and would give a totally different look to this project. Thanks again so much for joining me today. I know for some it's a little early for Christmas. I know for others they need extra time to find the supplies and time to create the projects that they want for the holidays. So please let me know in the comments which of these projects was your favorite, and we'll see you next time.